Welcome to the Artificial Fluency Podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Emma.
Today we're really getting into something crucial for English learners, bridging that gap between classroom English and, how people actually speak every day.
Exactly. We're looking at how you can understand and use English more naturally, more confidently in real life, using insights from the English pod community on YouTube. It's all about getting beyond the textbook.
Yeah, that's the mission. So we'll explore some common challenges listening, speaking things that often trip people up.
And we'll look at why they're tricky using some relatable stories and then pull out practical tips, things you can actually use straight away.
Perfect. Okay, so where do we start? The foundation, right? Listening.
Listening, absolutely. It's like the bedrock. You need to tune your ear to real-world English first.
And there's that great story about Daniel in New York ordering a croissant. He knew the word.
Yeah, he probably spelled it perfectly in his head. But he said croissant, maybe like he learned it from a book.
And got nothing. Just a blank stare, right? Until someone else nearby said it more like croissant.
Exactly. And suddenly understanding it just shows how different the actual sounds can be. It's not just the word, it's the music of it, the pronunciation.
Right, the rhythm, how words kind of smush together sometimes. Like what is becoming almost like what is when people talk fast.
That's a great example. So the big takeaway is that real-life English often sounds very different from the careful, slow way it's sometimes taught. You got to listen for those natural sounds.
So the more you listen to podcasts or movies or just people talking,
the more your brain starts to recognize those patterns, it becomes less foreign, more familiar.
and that familiarity builds confidence, right?
Yeah.
So when you hear a common phrase, you're not decoding it word by word.
You just know it. So the advice here is pretty simple, really. Immerse yourself, listen actively, make it a habit.
Okay, moving on. What about those phrases that just don't make sense literally? Idioms and expressions.
Yes. Emma's experience in Canada with touch base.
Yeah, she's totally confused. Like, am I supposed to touch the floor? A baseball base?
It's funny, but it really highlights how much meaning can be hidden in these common expressions. Touch base just means, check in, have a quick chat.
But if you don't know that, you're lost.
And that's the thing with idioms. The meaning isn't in the individual words. It's cultural, contextual, like break a leg for good luck. Makes zero sense, literally.
Totally. So just knowing lots of words isn't always enough. You need to know these chunks of language.
Right. So when you hear a new one, like touch base, don't just look it up. Pay attention to the situation. Who said it? Why?
Context is key.
Definitely. And then try saying it. Get your mouth around the sounds. Maybe even try using it yourself when it feels right.
Yeah, practice using it. That's how it sticks, right? It moves from being something you know to something you can use.
Exactly. It becomes part of your active vocabulary.
Okay, another big one. The sheer speed of natural conversation and all those little phrases that aren't in the books. David's moved to London.
Right. He'd studied hard, knew his grammar, but then real life happened. Fast-talking colleagues, unfamiliar expressions.
Like people saying, grab a bite for lunch, or let's wrap things up at the end of a meeting.
Simple stuff to native speakers, but totally confusing if you haven't encountered them used that way before. He knew grab and bite, but together.
Yeah, it threw him. And it shows that understanding isn't just words, it's the pace, the flow, the implied meanings, and things like contractions, gonna wanna.
So how do you deal with that? David's approach was smart.
He started listening more, right? Podcasts, joining in conversations.
And crucially, he wasn't afraid to ask, to say, sorry, what does wrap things up mean? Or could you slow down a bit?
That takes guts, but it's so important. Don't just nod and pretend you understand.
Absolutely. Asking for clarification is key. Native speakers usually don't mind explaining. It shows you're engaged.
So again, immersion helps. More listening practice trains your ear for the speed and those common expressions.
Okay, let's get really practical now. Practicing specific phrases for common situations, like at the airport.
Oh yeah, immigration. What's the purpose of your visit? Sounds so formal.
It does. But if you've practiced it, it just means, why are you here? Business, holiday, takes the pressure off.
Or in a cafe. Instead of a very formal, I would like to order, just, can I get a... It sounds much more natural.
And understanding the cashier saying, that'll be for the price. Simple but useful.
Or asking for a wake-up call at a hotel. Knowing what that means avoids confusion.
Right. So having these situation-specific phrases ready means you're not building sentences from scratch every time. You can respond more quickly.
So the action here is identify common situations you'll be in and practice the key phrases out loud. I'd like to order Coke. Could you repeat that? Where is the stuff like that?
Say them until they feel automatic.
Good advice. Now, what about small talk? Maria's story. Feeling nervous about just chatting.
Yeah, it seems minor, but it's huge, isn't it? She focused so much on correct English, she missed the importance of just connecting casually.
That moment when her colleague John just asked, "How was your weekend?" Simple question, but she froze up.
Because small talk isn't really about deep information exchange, is it? It's about building rapport, breaking the ice, showing friendliness.
Exactly. It's a social lubricant, but it's a skill you need to practice like any other.
So the takeaway is, don't underestimate small talk. It's vital for fitting in and feeling comfortable.
And the advice: practice it. Start simple. The weather. Nice day, isn't it? Weekend plans. Doing anything fun this weekend. Ask easy, open questions.
Share a little bit, but keep it light initially. It gets easier.
Okay, phone calls. Definitely trickier. No visual cues.
Right. No body language, no lip reading, and sometimes the connection isn't great either.
So you really need to listen hard and speak clearly yourself.
And this is where those clarification phrases become absolutely essential.
Like, could you please repeat that? Or, sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Don't be shy about using them.
Better to ask than to misunderstand something important. So practice those phrases for phone calls specifically.
Good point. What about announcements? Airports, train stations? Often hard to understand.
Muffled speakers, background noise. Yeah. And unfamiliar vocabulary, like the example, due to inclement weather.
Inclement weather. Doesn't mean bad weather, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't know the term,
You might miss crucial information about your flight being delayed.
so knowing common announcement phrases is important for navigating those places.
Things like flight delayed, gate change, final boarding call. Practice saying them. Listen out for them. It helps you pick them out from the noise.
Makes sense. Now, talking about yourself, hobbies and interests.
Yeah, that question, what you do in your free time, comes up a lot when meeting people.
And it's a great chance to use more descriptive words, right? Not just I like reading, but maybe I'm really passionate about reading historical fiction.
Exactly. It lets you share a bit of your personality, connect on a more personal level. It moves beyond just the basics.
So the tip is, think about your hobbies. What vocabulary do you need? Practice describing them. Use interesting adjectives. Be ready to share a little.
Okay, let's talk about a core technique. Active listening and repetition.
All right, those basic phrases the video mentions. How are you today? What have you been up to? Nice weather, isn't it?
The idea is that repeating these common chunks builds muscle memory for speaking, like practicing scales on a piano.
You internalize the rhythm, the intonation. It stops feeling like translating in your head.
So the advice is simple. Repeat common phrases aloud, again and again, until they feel totally natural coming out of your mouth.
Now, shifting gears a bit. Professional settings, meetings, presentations.
Yeah, different kind of language needed there. Often more direct, more formal, perhaps.
Like, finalize the project timeline by Friday, or let's wrap up and summarize key points.
Clarity is crucial in business, right? Everyone needs to understand tasks, deadlines, decisions, no room for ambiguity.
So practice those specific meeting phrases. Learn how to summarize points clearly. It's a really valuable skill.
Definitely. Now, interacting with service providers, hotels, shops, restaurants.
Like the example, the Wi-Fi in my room isn't working. You need to state the problem clearly.
And understand the response, like, I'm sorry for the inconvenience, let me check on that. Politeness is usually key here, too.
So clear speaking, careful listening, practice phrases for common issues. Ordering, asking for help, reporting a problem.
Think through those scenarios beforehand.
What about regional differences? Slang, like the Australian example.
This is a ripper deal, meaning a really great deal, but totally confusing if you're not Australian.
Yeah. Shows how much variation there is. Real conversations expose you to all sorts of local flavor.
So be curious. If you hear slang or an idiom you don't know, note it down. Try to figure it out from context. Maybe even ask someone.
And maybe try using it yourself if you feel confident. Carefully, though.
Good point. Okay, social gatherings, relaxed chats with friends, family.
Dinner table talk. Simple questions like, what was the best part of your day? Sharing little stories.
This is invaluable practice. Low pressure, supportive environment. You can focus on just communicating naturally.
So pay attention to the simple everyday language used in these settings. How people express feelings, share news. It's often quite simple but effective.
And even though we're focused on sound, nonverbal cues matter, even on the phone, right?
Yeah, your tone of voice conveys so much. Enthusiasm, concern, humor, pauses, pitch.
So try to be aware of that in your own speaking. Let your voice reflect your meaning. Smile when you talk, even if they can't see you, it often comes across.
Good tip. And overarching all of this is practice builds confidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every conversation is a step. Visualize yourself succeeding in those situations. It really helps.
Let's touch on some more advanced stuff. Imagine a lively dinner party.
Yeah, the language might get a bit more complex. Greetings like, thrilled you could join me, offering toasts, expressing enjoyment more effusively. This is absolutely delicious.
You see a shift in formality sometimes, depending on the group.
So observe how native speakers handle these social situations, how they initiate, express opinions, change topics smoothly. Lots to learn by watching.
What about unexpected questions? Like at a networking event, tell me about your work.
Bam, on the spot. You need to think fast, organize your thoughts quickly.
It requires practice in spontaneous speaking, being concise.
So prepare. Have a short, clear elevator pitch about yourself, your job, your interests. Practice it so it sounds natural, not robotic.
Makes sense. And using multimedia, beyond just listening.
Oh, yeah. Audiobooks, radio, podcasts, great sources, but also techniques like shadowing.
Where you repeat what you hear almost immediately, mimicking the intonation and rhythm.
Exactly. It's fantastic practice for pronunciation and flow, and some apps give you pronunciation feedback, too.
So use a variety of audio sources. Try shadowing short clips. Explore those apps.
And remember, improvement is gradual. Don't get discouraged.
Celebrate the small wins.
And
the mistakes. They're just learning opportunities, right?
Totally. Everyone makes them. It's part of the process.
Okay, engaging in debates. Expressing opinions clearly.
Like the social media example. Acknowledging the other view, I see your point, then adding your own thought or question. But I wonder how. What do you think?
That shows active listening. You're not just waiting to talk. You're building on what was said.
So practice summarizing others' points before adding yours. It makes the conversation much more constructive.
What about reflective practice? Thinking about your conversations.
Super useful. Keep a journal, maybe. Note down new phrases, things you struggled with, things that went well.
And role-playing. Practicing scenarios, either alone or with someone.
It makes you think actively about the language you'd need. So reflect, journal, role play. It cements the learning.
And challenge yourself with abstract topics eventually. Dreams, ambitions, philosophy.
Yeah, it pushes your vocabulary and your ability to express complex thoughts. Good for stretching your skills.
So practice talking about bigger ideas, not just everyday stuff.
But underlying everything, consistent effort. And try to enjoy it.
Every conversation counts. Keep at it. Find ways to make it fun.
Absolutely. Let's quickly recap some absolute basics again, those small, everyday phrases.
Introductions. Hi, I'm Damien. Nice to meet you. Greetings. How are you? Responses. I'm good, thanks. You.
Simple sentences, clear thoughts, reacting naturally. Oh, interesting. Really. Taking a moment. Let me think.
Even in formal settings, clarity is often best. I believe this approach is sound. Start simple. Build confidence.
Practice them daily. Make them second nature.
Weave English into daily life, right?
Totally. Read labels in English at the store. Say the names of things. Talk to friends in English if you can. Use language apps.
Turn everyday tasks into micro-practice sessions.
Be conscious about it. Look for opportunities.
And practice in relaxed ways first.
Yeah, low-pressure situations. Chatting with family about food. This is yummy. What's in it? Small talk at the market. These look fresh. Asking for simple help. Excuse me, how do I?
Build comfort gradually. Don't jump straight into high-stakes presentations.
Initiate simple chats. It gets less scary.
Then move towards deeper conversations. Sharing experiences.
Like talking about your weekend concert trip. It was amazing. Have you seen them live? Expressing yourself more fully.
Ask follow-up questions. Show interest. Keep it flowing.
And always, always learn from mistakes. Remember the coffee with a spoon story? Funny, memorable, you learn.
Listen every day. Movies, shows, subtitles on then off. Podcasts, real people. Focus on rhythm, tone, contractions, slang. How do natives respond?
Consistent exposure and active listening are just fundamental. Don't fear mistakes, expect them.
And mimic. Repeat sentences from audio, focusing on the sound.
Pronunciation, rhythm, tone, record yourself maybe. Speak in front of a mirror. Sounds silly, but it helps.
It refines your delivery, makes you sound more natural. Choose clips you like and practice mimicking.
And finally, understanding formality. Work email versus texting a friend.
Could you please send the report? Versus, hey, send me that report. Big difference.
Knowing when to use which style is key. Adapt your language to the situation and audience. Practice both.
And circling back one last time, consistent practice is everything.
It really is. Regular effort leads to confidence, leads to more natural speech. It all connects.
So wrapping up our deep dive today, the path to better English listening and speaking involves really immersing yourself in real English, practicing actively both listening and speaking, and importantly, being okay with making mistakes. That's how you grow.
Couldn't agree more. So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. What's one specific situation where you feel least confident speaking English right now?
Yeah, pinpoint that situation. Now, thinking about everything we discussed, could you pick just one or two tips to try differently next time you're in that situation?
And maybe even more immediately. What's one small thing you could do this week, just one action, to immerse yourself a little more in authentic, real-world English?
So you sent us some really interesting audio and video clips. We're going to do a deep dive today, try and pull out the best practical advice for boosting your English speaking and listening.
Exactly. Think of it as, well, finding those key insights, the practical stuff you can actually use from all these different sources we looked at.
Right. We've got instructional audio, real-life stories about language practice, even bits from other podcasts on communication. Kind of a mix.
Yeah, the mission is really to explore all that and just grab those useful nuggets for anyone who wants to get up to speed quickly, maybe have a few aha moments without feeling totally overwhelmed.
Okay, perfect. So where should we start? Maybe with the storytelling aspect.
Yeah, let's do that. It came up quite a bit how stories make English feel, well, more interesting, more natural.
Definitely. What struck me was the advice about thinking about your listeners' feelings, using simple words,
And describing what you actually saw or heard or felt, that sensory detail.
It moves it beyond just facts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's about sharing an experience.
Totally. It makes it much more engaging, like that story of Rachel, the baker.
Oh, yeah. I like that one. Started small, local market, had tough days, right? No customers sometimes, even complaints.
But she kept at it. Listened to the feedback, changed things up.
And now she's got this successful bakery, teaches classes even. It's quite the journey.
And it really parallels language learning, you know? You'll have good days, bad days, times it feels slow.
Yeah, mistakes happen, setbacks.
Exactly. But her story, it just highlights that need for perseverance, for actually paying attention to feedback, whether it's like formal feedback or just noticing your own mistakes and being willing to adapt.
That adaptability is key.
Yeah.
And the sources also talked about noticing story structure.
Right. The beginning, how it sets things up, the transitions, the descriptive bits.
It made me think, about encouraging you, the listener, to try telling your own stories in English.
That's a great idea. Like your first day at work or a time you help someone.
Or learn something new. Just taking that simple memory and trying to structure it, put it into English.
You engage with the language on a much deeper level then, I think. It's not just abstract rules. It's using English for your stuff, your life.
We also heard that story about Daniel on the bus, helping the older man who was lost and wet.
Oh, that was lovely. Just offering directions, speaking calmly, giving up his seat. Very simple language.
But really effective.
Yeah.
And kind.
Yeah, and what's interesting is how these everyday moments, these small acts, they teach us so much. About life, yes, but also about natural English. Calm, clear, simple words.
It makes you reflect on your own day, doesn't it? Those small, maybe meaningful interactions you have.
Definitely. And the idea is maybe try writing about one of those moments. What happened? How did you feel? Use simple English.
It helps lock in that everyday vocabulary, I suppose. Routines, feelings, interactions.
Finding the significance in the ordinary and using English to express it.
Then there was Emily, the nurse, communicating with the worried mother who didn't speak much English.
Right. She handled that so well. Calm, clear explanations. Even wrote things down. Made the mother feel safe.
Even with the language barrier. It really shows communication is more than just fluency, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's about building trust, making people feel understood, feel safe. That human element is crucial.
It makes you think about times maybe you helped someone understand something, or when someone helped you.
Reflecting on those moments. What worked? Why did it work? That's valuable insight.
We also heard about Richard the builder. Lost his factory job, but then learned construction skills, found a new path.
Yeah, resilience there. And embracing new learning. Plus, again, that theme of clear, kind communication coming through.
Don't give up easily. That was a key lesson.
And how you interact with people matters. Always.
And Anna in the grocery store. how she consciously slowed down, used simpler words for a non-native speaker.
That's great awareness. Adapting to your audience, it makes such a difference for understanding.
Small adjustments, big impact.
Exactly. It's not about fancy words. It's about clarity, kindness, making sure the other person gets it and feels comfortable. That's effective communication.
We've all been there, trying to explain something and needing to simplify. That's practice too.
It makes you more aware of your own habits, how to be more accessible.
We also had James, the delivery driver, staying calm with a flat tire, no signal.
Right. Problem solving. And his ability to talk easily with different customers using simple language, that's a useful skill.
And George the mechanic, his passion for cars from a young age, always learning.
That lifelong learning, driven by interest, applies to languages too, I think.
Then William, another delivery driver, asking politely for help to find the right address.
Shows it's okay to ask. Don't be afraid. Simple, polite phrases work wonders.
And Emma, the baker, friendly, helpful, making customers feel welcome.
Building that trust through warmth and simple, kind questions, it works.
John and Robert, the construction guys, solving a problem through teamwork.
Yeah. Avoiding blame, focusing on collaboration.
Yeah.
Using phrases for teamwork.
Paul and Rachel at home, sharing chores, using those simple, everyday English phrases.
Good reminder to practice at home, right, in those daily moments.
Adam, the fruit shop owner, polite words, positive attitude leading to success, even with simple English.
Politeness and positivity go a long, long way.
And we had quick mentions of Linda and Mark fixing things at home, Daniel helping in a clothes shop, Helen at the grocery store.
Robert and Emily in the garden, Claire needing a delivery, electricians troubleshooting.
Bakers making small talk, nurses with patients, families planning dinner, colleagues helping out.
Neighbors chatting, shopkeepers assisting, friends helping move things, community kindness. I mean, the list goes on.
It really does. And all these stories from so many different people and situations, they just drive home that English learning happens in life.
Yeah, it's tied to real interactions, everyday communication skills. And notice the structure. Again, beginning, events, resolution. Understanding that helps you understand and tell stories.
Every conversation is a chance to practice, basically. You don't need a formal lesson all the time.
Okay, so let's switch gears a bit. Let's talk mindset, confidence. This came up quite strongly, too.
Oh, yeah. Feeling stuck in your head when you try to speak? I think we can all relate to that feeling.
Definitely. And it often comes from, that fear of mistakes, fear of not sounding right.
But the message was really about shifting how you view the whole process. Your attitude, your beliefs about learning English. That's the mindset part.
A positive mindset, one focused on growth, it can be, incredibly powerful.
Like that story about Daniel, the friend who was just fearless about speaking.
Uh-huh. Not worried about grammar perfection.
Right. He just saw mistakes as like part of learning, and apparently he got fluent way faster because of it.
It shows that attitude, that willingness to just try. It gives you such an edge. You practice more, you improve faster. Simple as that.
And Sarah, the colleague who was self-conscious about her accent.
Yeah, until someone pointed out her message was clear and the accent was just part of her.
That shift helped her confidence hugely. Focus on the message, not the accent.
It's about self-acceptance, too. Your accent is you. What matters is being understood.
I also like the story of John, the friend who actively sought out conversations as a practice.
Yeah, turning it from something to avoid into an opportunity. That's proactive.
He started enjoying it, and his confidence just grew and grew.
It shows the power of deliberately creating those chances to speak. You build skills and confidence.
And those practical ideas, like even just ordering coffee at a bakery, seeing that as a small practice moment.
Those everyday low-stakes situations are brilliant for that. No pressure, just a chance to try out your English. Little wins.
Turning routine things into mini lessons. And the importance of knowing why you're learning, your personal goals.
Absolutely. Having that why for work, travel, family, just personal growth. That's your fuel. It keeps you going when it gets tough.
And finding ways to practice everywhere, at home, at the shops.
Just integrating it makes it feel less like a chore and more just part of your life. Consistent practice is key.
I love that plant analogy, too. Practice is like watering the plant.
And mistakes. They're not failures. They're just growing points, learning moments.
Exactly. So the big takeaway seems to be celebrate the small victories, trust the process. It takes time.
Yeah, acknowledge your progress, believe you can learn. That's huge for sticking with it long term.
Okay, so moving on to connecting with others. The sources really hammered home that good communication isn't just fancy words, or perfect fluency.
No, it's much more about making the other person feel, well, understood and safe.
That's fundamental, isn't it, in any language?
Mm.
Building connection, making people feel valued.
We heard about Daniel, again, the one who wasn't afraid of mistakes. His focus was on clear explanation, really listening.
And that built trust, even if his language wasn't always complex.
It just underlines that clarity and empathy. They're way more important than showing off vocabulary. Focus on being understood, on hearing others.
Prioritize connection over complexity. That was stressed quite a bit.
Yeah, in most situations, simple, direct language is best. It helps build that genuine connection.
And the idea of looking at people you know who communicate well,
And asking yourself, what do they do? What techniques make them effective?
you can learn a lot just by observing. Maybe adapt some of those things for your own English.
Like Grace, the nurse, with patients who had limited English. Speaking slowly, simple words, but also that kindness, that patience.
That approach makes such a difference, doesn't it? Especially when there's a language gap, it shows you care.
And David the carpenter, really listening to customers, George the baker's warm greetings, Thomas the librarian, making people feel confident.
They all show communication as holistic. It's listening, empathy, the desire to connect, not just the words.
Right. It all comes back to your goal, doesn't it? Improving English to connect better, understand better, be understood better.
Exactly. Enhancing your ability to build those relationships, navigate life more easily.
Now, there was that other perspective we looked at, inspired by Madeline Argy's podcast, about deeper emotions and connection.
Ah, yes, that was interesting. The idea that feelings like jealousy or maybe discomfort when you see others connecting, it might not be about control.
Right. It could actually stem from our own sort of fundamental need for connection.
So the suggestion was to reflect on the underlying need in those moments. What are you actually longing for? Inclusion, feeling valued.
It's a shift, isn't it? From just feeling bad to exploring what's missing for you.
And maybe reframing it,
Yeah.
not as jealousy, but as a kind of bid for connection in your own interactions.
Thinking of it that way, as wanting more closeness or understanding, might help you communicate your own feelings more constructively.
So identifying the specific need, is it affection, reassurance, just having fun, quality time?
Knowing that helps you ask for what you need more clearly, more directly.
And then noticing how people respond to that communication, that tells you something about the relationship dynamics.
Yeah, healthy relationships usually involve that give and take, that willingness to hear and respond to needs. Open communication is key.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, we've seen how powerful stories can be for making English learning more engaging, more natural sounding.
And we've definitely hit on the importance of mindset being positive, seeing mistakes as learning, and just consistent practice for building confidence.
Plus, the huge value of clear, kind, caring communication. That's really the foundation for connecting with people.
And finally, that little insight that even uncomfortable feelings around connection can point us towards understanding our own needs better and maybe communicating them more effectively.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener. What's one small thing you could do today? Maybe try telling a little story in English.
Or perhaps just take a moment to think about your learning mindset, or how you could express a need for connection a bit more clearly next time.
Taking that one small step, whatever it is, can be a really effective way to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. On your English journey and in your connections with others.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive on the Artificial Fluency Podcast. Remember, every small step you take really does matter.